Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahar, and Imaru, and Kyle, introducing all of us here for a lovely episode of the podcast. And today we have interesting topics brought forward. A lot of them come from jilted gamers. I mean, hey, how can you stop our entitlement, right? We only pay $60 to do it, you know? And a couple movies that we've all been watching. And I'll fully admit to passing out towards the end of, just because they've been that riveting to watch. So
more than one movie.
More than one movie. Almost all of them except one. Except one. I'll say except one I stayed awake just because it kind of tickled my fancy a little. But the rest of them...
Number 3 actually tickled your fancy?
I honestly, that movie, I just wanted to see how much worse can we get. The ending made up for it. Like, okay, let's start off with this. So, Imaru's bringing forward. How about you introduce your topic, Imaru, please?
All right. I don't know if many of you know. I'm really a movie guy as well. I really enjoy good classic movies and good classics. Taxi Driver.
His favorite movie is Jingle All the Way. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, I watch it. I watch it every fucking year. But actually, it ties, because even if I enjoy that movie, I want to see why is it that we enjoy crap from time to time? Why is it with shitty movies that we actually like to go back to them, enjoy them? Like the apex example for that is The Room. Why is The Room so fucking popular? It's an incredibly shitty movie.
Just because it has a deep and engaging plot that you need to watch.
It does fucking not.
It actually does, if you think about it. You know, it's about a man.
It's the most bare bones story. Their best friend. Oh shit, I'm dating a girl. Oh shit, she's fucking cheating on me. That's it.
Okay, but that's like drama. That's intriguing right there.
Okay, so to be fair,
drama my ass. That is a drama that actually introduces a shit ton of plot points and does nothing with them.
Do you not realize the mother had breast cancer?
Yes, and when is that brought up again?
Never.
When is that brought up? When it's Denny's drug rolling brought up again?
You know, Mario, if you're just gonna rip on Tommy's hard work, then you're just a hater, bro. I'm just saying right now.
No. I'm ripping on him, but he made something incredible. He succeeded. He went to be a director and succeeded. He is a figure now. He's actually has a reputation.
Could you imagine sitting down?
He released two movies. This year and the last year. Best Friends, Volume 1 and 2. And apparently they're getting good reviews.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. Jeez, you fucked my mind. So
yeah, Best Friends.
Further moving on.
It's Tommy and Mark, both of them.
So speaking of shitty movies, we've started watching the Resident Evil live action movies. Now, on Kyle's recommendation, these movies were fucking gold mines to be watching, by the way. And so
to be fair, I gave you guys fair warning that these were guilty pleasures of mine.
Oh, I knew they were shit from the beginning.
We all knew. Like, we knew wholeheartedly.
Okay. I wanted to be, but yes, they are gold mines for fucking just...
They're so fucking bad. Oh my... Okay, let me get this started, all right? So, we've been doing this on a nightly basis. I've been firing up that good old fucking video file. We've been laying back. And honestly... It is the worst. Yeah, okay, fuck you. You can't blame me, all right? A, I got a sleep schedule now, and B, it's a fucking shitty movie. Okay, if it was a good movie...
I was the one who said that they were shit movies, and they were boring. I was the one who said they were boring in the first place, and I'm still awake for them.
Yeah, because you're sitting up. I'm laying down, staring at this cancer.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be
laying down. Well, fuck you. I will lay down, all right? I'm going to lay down even more. I'm going to tie myself to bed next time, you fuck, when we're watching this movie. Because they're so...
Why don't you have one of those chairs, one of those giant chairs that you just laid back?
I'm in my fucking bedroom. I'm not going to put a lazy chair in my bedroom. God damn you. All right?
Come on, that's a dream.
That's not the fucking kind of, okay? But that's not the point of the fucking video. It's different. So anyway, they're really shitty movies. Like the plots, I don't know how they mirror the video games, because right now we're entering like Mad Max Fallout territory of storylines. I don't know how it fucking ties in, but apparently to Kyle it does. We'll have yet to find out.
So the tie-ins from the movie to the game is always extremely loose. Like last night's movie was literally they basically took Resident Evil 5.
The shitty Cliff Notes of 5, yes.
And they literally, they took the shitty Cliff Notes of 5.
They took the beat sheet for 5.
They put it in some U.S. city with a giant fucking prison.
It wasn't U.S. It was Japan, you fucking racist.
That one? No.
The movie, wait.
Man.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they went back to L.A. because a bitch fucking flew from Las Vegas to Alaska and then was like, fuck it, I'll fly back to. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter. The movie was a 3D fetish fart.
I want to put a seed of cancer in here. The game, it's based in Africa, and some of its elements made it into an American movie. Is the movie culturally appropriating the game?
Dude, it's whitewashing the Executioner from 5, bro.
Okay, to be fair, the Executioner in 5 is way more of a beefy fucking Chad than that skinny motherfucker.
Well, I doubt you can get fucking Batista to do the Executioner role for that piece of shit movie.
That would be amazing.
I mean, everybody... Okay.
Of all the things that they copied from the game and took for inspiration, the Executioner is the only one that looks exactly like he looks in the game.
Because, like, all the characters look retarded. Like, Chris looks like Discount Chris, all right? We haven't seen Leon
which Chris?
yet.
The Chris from the first movies?
He doesn't
No,
look
that's
like
Carlos, you
Chris.
racist.
He doesn't look like
Chris.
Discount Chris. It looks like Resident Evil 7 Chris.
Which is also Discount Chris. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
Wow. Okay.
It's Discount Chris.
It is.
It's like, wow, I'm Chris. I'm fucking 50-something years old. Let me look like a fucking 28-year-old lad. Fuck you. You're lying.
Kyle broke this to me. The guy who plays Carlos. Okay, it's Carlos. It's a character that was in just one game and did fuck all after that.
Yeah,
why
Carlos
the fuck
Rivera.
does the actor? Why the fuck does the Oliveira? Cal, why the fuck does the actor looks more like a young Chris from the earlier games than Carlos?
Yep.
Like every time I saw that guy, they guys know. Oh, there's Chris. Oh shit, it's Chris. Oh fuck, it's Chris. Because it's fucking Chris. He looks like a Chris.
It looks exactly like Chris. One thing I will say, so like I said,
he even smokes like Chris. What a terrible man.
Like everything in the movies is
even weed.
So terribly loosely tied into the games, right? So basically with the first one, you go down to what they call the nest or the hive. Okay. They essentially, like, everything is just so loosely based on the games that it's kind of like, why didn't you just follow the game? And the reason for this, people don't know this, but the original holder for the rights to make the Resident Evil movies was Constantine Films. And what ended up happening is that Sony wanted to get in on it, and Constantine Films was like, well, they're a big publisher. Obviously having their funding would help a hell of a lot. And this is one of those cases of just having too many people trying to work on something. It ends up making something absolutely terrible. Constantine Films originally wanted to stick with the original game script.
Yeah, but that's too slow and methodical. We need action.
But however, Sony was the one who was like, no, we don't like that. And everything you see in the movies is a result of Sony.
That's so fucking terrible. I swear to God.
Everything you see from the music choice, everything. The only thing that remained...
Dude, the music choice is up there with Commando. Like, what? Like, fucking just jarring as fuck out of nowhere. I swear to God, in the last movie, I'm going to call it right now, Lil Wayne comes in to do a fucking music track during a battle sequence. I swear to God, I expect that wholeheartedly. If that happens...
might happen during the last
Fuck you, dude. Don't even say that.
I don't think it's Lil Wayne, but I do think something happens.
Oh my God. At least be DMX. At least be somebody.
Oh, fuck no, it ain't DMX.
Oh, they could, come on, why do you, whatever, dude, fuck my life, movies. Anyways, that got me kind of thinking, so the reality is, I work with, movies, film, television, all that stuff. I work as a post-production guy. And in post-production, the job literally comes down to condensing a movie, because you have to understand one thing, right? When you have any movie that's when you have like a movie tie-in or a game tie-in with a movie, right? It's going to be terrible almost all the time. And for one specific reason, a game you usually spend, 10, 15 hours playing through a story, right? Whereas a movie, you only have an hour and a half, hour 45, at the most like 2.5 hours, right? Like that's like a fucking heavy feature.
And that's like the last time I saw a 2.5 hour movie was like a movie from the 90s.
Right.
Like, it's very seldom you get a 2.5 hour movie.
So, like, when you have an hour and 45 minutes, right, for a movie, and you want to take the plot for something like, say, Resident Evil 2, and you want to condense into a movie, it's still going to be impossible, right? Because a movie is not interactive. The movie's goal is to give more lore and exposition and everything. And I honestly feel at times, they spend more time focusing on lore and exposition and everything rather than... You can't have it an hour 45 minutes of set pieces. It has to be a cohesive middle, beginning, and an end, right? You can't condense something that is originally 15 hours to like an hour 45 minutes. And it's also due to the fact that there are some things that you can only do in video games, and there are some things that you can only do in movies, right? And there's that's where you step into a situation where you can't get these really great titles. You also have impassioned directors too. You can look back at like Uwe Boll, who really didn't give a fuck about any IP that was given to him. Yet he fucking went ahead and did it. All right. So you have shit tier crap coming out of there. Resident Evil movies, the live action could have been really great. But you have this disconnect between really two pieces of media, right? Like, you can take the video game and convert it to the fucking movie style, right? Because there's not enough, sometimes there's not even enough substance in the video game to give plot to the main, like, movie, right? So you've got
I think to an extent in Resident Evil, that could be the case because there's stuff you can latch onto in the games, right?
Right.
But is there enough to give you a detailed movie?
No.
And certain Resident Evil games, I don't feel like you have enough to give a detailed movie. Now, does that mean that maybe the directors get more creative freedom on how to interpret the pieces of in-between information? Yeah, but that's not always good.
So okay, here's my thing. Now that we watched the movies and we brought this point up, for me, the weird thing is when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake, to me, I was like, this is a perfect Resident Evil movie as well. Like, you factor in the cutscenes, you factor in how the story progresses and everything. We're at the point where, the video game can pretty much serve as the full movie at this point, right?
Yep.
And now that I think about it, it reinforces my point where it's like you can't just turn the movie, you can't turn the video game into the movie, because in order for the whole Resident Evil 2 movie experience for me to work, you also have to have the gameplay, right? Like when you watch the Resident Evil movies, it's like I don't think you could ever match the tension you get in the games to any scene that could be brought in the movie.
Some things just cannot be replicated. Just imagine if they made a Metal Gear Solid 4 movie.
Right. It would just be
those
hours.
Sneaking scenes will be hours and upon hours. Not just a spot, but remember they also have to include like sneaking scenes, the tailing the resistance guy, the fucking fist fight at the end. They got to cover a lot of shit, and that in 2 hours you can't do. That's
and it's like movie. Even if you do that, right? Like, okay, here's the thing: even if you fucking say ignore the movie and it turns into like a Netflix, sort of season, right? Like a whole season of Metal Gear Solid 4, you could convey the story, but then like the gameplay is so important to that story conveying that you just also can't do that. Like the sneaking scenes, right? What would have been in a movie, right? Like what, 3 or 4 shots of Snake just sneaking around in the background? Like what would the shots of tension be for Resident Evil movies, right? Leon just walking through places and like running away from zombies, the occasional fight. Like how much can you do it?
I could actually see that working to an extent. Like say let's use Resident Evil 2 as a backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the set piece is obviously going to be the Raccoon City Police Department, right?
Right.
Instead of following kind of the game script on that, obviously the guy isn't going to be going around doing fucking puzzles to advance through the area. So instead what you're doing is you're going to create an area that has dim lighting with a good soundtrack, but what you need that ambiance. There are certain movies that do it really well. A Quiet Place, that movie is all about basically sound.
Yeah.
No characters don't talk during it. It's all about what you hear. To an extent, I think Resident Evil needs to do, if you're going to make a movie about it, you have to do the same thing. The sound needs to be your exposition.
Right.
Another example that is one of my favorite movies of all time, that is Drive from 2011 with this guy, the La 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 Land, I forgot the name, Ryan Gosling. There's dialogue in that movie, but they barely even talk. Everything is through music and atmosphere, the entirety of it.
Right.
Exactly, and that's what a Resident Evil movie needs to be. It needs to be a movie that delivers its exposition through noise. Like one of the worst moments in Resident Evil 2 is when you're in an area doing something and you start hearing the boots of Mr. X. Because that's when you're like, okay, I'm on a time limit now. He's coming to find my ass. Hearing that noise, you know something's coming. Whereas, like, say, fucking Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 1, the live action movie, they had certain scenes where people would turn a corner and a zombie would just be right there. It's cheap scares.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate the fact that they hear nothing for seconds. Then all of a sudden, there are fucking 14,000 zombies behind them.
Exactly.
All doing that. And it's like, where do they even come from?
Or when they're in the sewers and there's like a fucking metro tunnel of zombies. It's like, well, I guess
exactly.
You're telling me no one was doing wild sneaking to you?
Like, that's just it. Like, a Resident Evil movie, to me, the only way it's going to be good and successful and maintain that type of tension is through the proper camera shots. But more than that, it needs to be done through ambience and atmosphere.
Yeah.
No amount of a black guy talking in monotone is going to explain to me what's going on.
Yeah, but if you combine green herbs with another green herbs, you get more.
Of course. This was explained by my comic book teacher that it also applies to comics and applies to a lot of things. And it's a simple, go back to the simple, less is more.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with that. That's a big reason why I love A Quiet Place as a movie. There is literally, I think I can probably count how many lines of dialogue are in that movie.
It's kind of like why John Wick is also a successful action movie, because like Amaru said, less is more, right? Like all they need to do is the bad guy needs to say his name, John Wick, and everyone's like, oh, exactly.
They didn't need to say, oh, John Wick, he used to be the biggest kid. No, all they have to do is he did this to John Wick. Oh, that's it. That's all you needed.
Okay, the best way they ever set up John Wick was when they told the story of him killing guys with a pencil.
I think no. Well, I think that's
the scene that made me realize everything is that call between Luigi and the other guy.
Well, yeah, when you have that's the scene where you have like the biggest guy, like the big mob boss of New York, like pick up the phone and he's like, "Why did you hit my son?" Because he hit John Wick. He's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, okay. Fuck.
And like when a business deal goes right, like a guy's like, "Are you listening?" It's like, "Where's my fucking son?" Like you can tell that the guy's freaked out. Like that's all you need. When you establish the bad guy is super fucking scary in that movie, but then at the same time, he's still pissing himself because of it. Yeah, you said it right.
Yes. No, I totally agree with that. Like in a Resident Evil movie, okay, who is really the protagonist in a Resident Evil game?
Is it the zombies? Whatever discount fucking protagonist, Alice.
Well, no. In the Resident Evil games,
depends on the two. Only has to be two. Always has to be two people.
Are the zombies part of the background, or are they a protagonist or an antagonist?
Well,
like who is the antagonist in these games?
It was just Wesker, Umbrella Corporation, the people behind the viruses. Zombies were just a backdrop.
Okay, then they need to give them some sort of substance, some sort of flesh out, so that you actually know what it is they're doing. Because, okay, in the movies, what do we know about Umbrella? We know that they created the zombie outbreak.
They
Great.
Fucking wireframe everything downstairs. That's what they fucking do.
Like, legitimately, we don't know anything about them. There was no way of knowing that Nemesis from the second movie was part of their experimentation. There was no way of knowing any of these types of things. Like, we don't know who Umbrella is in the movies. We just know they have a lot of money and somehow their bills are still getting paid.
I don't know, dude. It goes, to tie it all back to the whole movie video game argument. That's why you just can't. Honestly, that's why you really can't have too many good adaptations. Just because the mediums are so different and the storytelling dynamics are so different that like you can't. And plus, there's always, like you guys said, there's a loss in fucking translation all the time. No matter what.
That's how it works between games.
There's
movies,
also the thing too.
Books to movies, that kind of stuff.
There's also the thing too. It's like the ideas we mentioned, they would not have been profitable, so they're never gonna fucking happen. Nobody wants to watch a slow Resident Evil movie. They just want to watch fucking heads being cut off and vagina at some point tossed in. Maybe a little.
I'm sure. So for people who don't know, the series is getting rebooted. The live action series is getting rebooted. and it's going to be headed by Constantine Films, and they're not going to be taking anybody else on. So it's going to be entirely their vision.
You know what it could work best as with Resident Evil? It's just not a movie anymore. Fuck the movie. Make it a TV show.
Make it a TV show. Yeah, make it a show. That's it.
I'd rather.
It's gonna be something. It's gonna be a plot that it's long as fuck. And
I'd rather do TV show Resident Evil. Yeah, because when you have a world also, like that, it's better.
And also, I would rather be CGI.
Yeah,
CGI. I could actually totally see a TV show that working.
The characters, have the characters be the actual characters that they
are. Something along the line, because like The Walking Dead made it work. It started off as a comic book. Here's adapted itself into a great TV show.
If they just used the engine of RE2 and that was the style it went in, I would watch a TV show like that.
Oh, I'd watch that. I'd watch that day and night.
Like a fucking proper, like, take away the video game rendering of it and like just put in the fucking heavy effects, super big pipeline that you get like out of that engine and just like showcase it as a TV show. I'd watch. That'd be the best animated Resident Evil. The facial animation's already there. All we need now is a proper story to like convey it. I'd watch it over a live action because like
hell yeah,
that way we can actually have like proper depictions of the actual big tyrants and T-viruses rather than these cheap adaptations. Like the CGI was fucking terrible in these movies. And like
they are.
Like the CGI wouldn't be terrible had the whole thing been a consistent mess. Like when you have live action mixed with that terrible fucking like liquor crap that they had in the movie. No, never again. Never. I'm just saying. But
like I agree. Yeah. CGI would work a lot better for the series and a TV show style.
Now moving on from Resident Evil and shitty movies, we decided to cover up terrible game companies right now on the market, and one of them is our favorite EA games. Now,
who is hotter than EA right now? Muda? Fucking Bethesda.
Okay. So I want to start off.
Bethesda would be the dumpster trash fire.
I want to say one thing. I'm not here to be negative about a gaming company, but at the same time, like it's EA games. All right, they're doing it to themselves. So. First of all, I want to say this. For a lot of people on YouTube who are like really negative about gaming, like, oh, all gaming is dead. It's like, clearly you haven't played games, all right? It's like people who say, it's like a lot of people are like, well, all modern hip hop is garbage. Yeah, because you're looking at the surface level shit, right? You're not taking the extra steps to look at everything around, right? This is sort of a thing. Because when you look at gaming, yeah, the surface level gaming is kind of ass. You know, you're looking at what EA and Activision are pumping out for microtransaction money, but you're missing out on the Neo and the Nier Automatas and all those games that have come out in due time, right? Like you haven't seen those because gaming is still alive and great. It's still awesome. Like there's a lot of great games that come out year after year. It's just what makes the headlines is the really negative showpieces, and we all know why. It's because they definitely attract the YouTube views and the garnering and all that.
Oh yeah.
And the thing with EA is like, at this point, we're sitting in a situation where we're just waiting for the company to one-up each other in terms of how to make a terrible fucking game launch.
Okay, to be fair, Bethesda and EA, ever since the beginning of the year, have been doing that. Like, Bethesda releases a patch that reintroduces old bugs and just sends their entire community into an uproar again.
Mm-hmm.
And then fucking EA comes out with an Anthem demo, and it's just like, it's a complete and utter train wreck.
I'll say this from my perspective real quick. A lot of the big games right now are these really heavy loot and shoot grinding simulators that are currently running by a lot of these gaming companies. And when I played Anthem, so here's my quick review of Anthem, right? So I played it on my PC and it was okay. I didn't play a lot of it. Full disclaimers, like I didn't fucking like no life or whatever. It wasn't that impressive to me. I walk into it and I play it and it honestly feels like we were playing Borderlands again, right? Like it's just that style of game. And it didn't blow me away. Like I played it and I was like, what about this is so impressive that we had to wait how many years from BioWare's development team for it? You know what I mean? I was playing the game
6 years.
6 years. I'm playing the demo for this game and I'm picking up lore items and they say you need the full game to unlock. It's like, come on, EA, you want to track me on a game that's story based by fucking BioWare? Give me some story so I can at least think of spending $60 on the game. The looting mechanics are pretty bare bones. It's like there's no depth to it really, right? It's like kind of a crappier Diablo where, oh, this item has a higher number than the other one. Let's equip that and demolish that one. And maybe when I get later on, I can think of speccing up my character in a special way. It's a simple mechanic, right? But it's one of those mechanics designed so that you and your friends do the same missions again and again and get better loot, right?
Yep.
There's not a lot of depth to it, in my opinion, when you compare to something like Diablo 3, where seasons come out, so you're always grinding for newer items, and there's.
I would
builds.
actually argue that Destiny 2 has more depth than.
Yeah, I would say Destiny 2 has more depth. Yes, even though that's not substantially great either. Division, that may have like similar depths, but I like the world of Division more. Maybe that's what's biasing me towards it.
Okay, but Division also has a really good backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a unique way of delivering the story throughout the game.
It's one of those Tom Clancy's like
type things.
Well, it's an interesting take. It's a refreshing take on a bioterrorist attack, right? And I guess Anthem is too. If you're interested by a story of Anthem, maybe that's the bias, right? Maybe you're like, I don't get why Muda likes the Division. Fuck that game. I like Anthem's world. Hey, that's you. Maybe you enjoy it, but at the core, I wasn't impressed by the game. Just like I'm not impressed by a lot of these loot and shooters. So when this game demo comes out and the fucking connection problems ensue, I'm like, dude. First of all, it's so retarded that Apex Legends, a free-to-play battle royale, just came out yesterday with no issues on launch, by the way. Like, we were able to download this shit and play it. From EA as well. This is an EA studio. Yet another EA studio that I for sure had way more time and funding and money put in than Apex Legends from EA. Had fucking connection issues on the demo. And people were like, well, it's an older build, all of that. None of it matters when you're trying to get a network stress test going anyways. Like, you should be putting your all to test. You shouldn't give us a half-ass build and then, expect us to disconnect. You're not even doing your job right on that front. Like, this is the biggest company in gaming, without a doubt. One of the biggest, like, multi-billion-dollar company. And they couldn't fucking launch a demo for a loot and shoot game? Like, call me crazy, but is it wrong for me to expect the game that I'm paying $60 for potentially should allow me to connect?
So one thing I want to point out here, BioWare announced that over the 2 weekends of demo weekends,
closed and
open. There was 40 million hours of play.
Maybe fucking
And I consider that complete bullshit. Unless they're also counting the amount of time people spent trying to log in.
I mean, I don't doubt it may have been 40 million people. It's certainly a popular game amongst PS4, Xbox One,
no. 40
PC.
million hours.
I mean, I don't know where the stats come from. If it's 40 million hours game time, it's got to be 100 million hours connecting to the fucking game.
I find that extremely difficult to believe. Especially with the number of issues people were having.
It's like when you play Call of Duty day one and like the ticker says 1 billion barrels have been blown up. Really? The game just launched an hour ago, dude. I mean,
what?
All right.
I'm sorry to say, but your barrels didn't blow up all at once.
I'm just sitting there wondering. Yeah, some of the stats in video games I feel are kind of bullshit. They're not really held accountable to anything. It's not like we have an API to pull from or any bullshit. But even beyond that, this game. It's like when you have a shitty launch like this and people have a sour taste in their mouth, they have a right to have a sour taste in their mouth. Dude, this is not a fucking indie developer. And anybody says, well, video gamers are entitled. Okay, I hate the entitlement argument because it's like, yo, I paid $60 for this, right? Like, this isn't a free-to-play game. If it was a free-to-play...
If it's free-to-play, you don't have a right.
Yeah, if it was a free download, okay, my bitching doesn't fucking matter because it's a free game. All right. You'd have to be dumb if the game wasn't working and then pay them money for fucking in-game currency. It doesn't work. Wait for it to fucking work, dipshit. But if you pay $60 for a game, all right, and it doesn't work, how the fuck would you feel? Okay, people who bring the entitlement argument. If let's say the vehicle you just brought, okay, needed a fucking internet connection to start. Like, let's say that you bought a Mustang and the Mustang needed Ford server connection to fire up. Oh, well, guess what? Ford servers are down. Your car won't start for like 3 hours that day. Are you allowed to bitch about it? Congratulations. I can bitch about the game that I bought too. I get it. $60 is different than thousands upon thousands of dollars. But do you understand the argument I'm bringing? You paid for it.
Let's put it this way. They say that gamers are entitled. Okay.
They are to an extent. I think that they are in certain cases.
Let's go down to the fucking Walmart where you're shopping for something. And let's say you get bad customer service, or let's say you go to a fucking restaurant, a place where you're ordering stuff and you're going to eat. And let's say you order a burger well done and it comes out rare. You have every right You have every right to bitch about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because they fucked up and didn't give you the product you requested, doesn't mean that you have to sit there and eat that product. You have every right to be like, hey, this is wrong. Get a new one or fucking fix it or whatever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not willing to fucking at least the idea that I'm bringing is like, okay, fine. If you want your specific game mode or this stupid shit brought in, okay, to a level of extent, that's kind of entitlement. If you want the entire world from a $60 game, that's true. But the expectation of expecting you to connect to a fucking game that you just paid for, the basic act of actually playing the game. Yeah, no, that's not entitlement. That's fucking, you have a right to be angry. You know, Critical played the game. He tried connecting. He's like, motherfucker, you can't connect to Anthem. It's like people actually defending. I'm like, I agree with Critical, dude. How do you defend a game that you just paid $60 for from one of the biggest gaming companies ever, unable to connect? And yeah, I get it. It's fixed up now, for sure. I'm sure they won't make the same mistake when it comes out. But now you got this terrible black spot against it. And alongside that, you've got a game that really, in my opinion, I don't see the super hype around it. I'd rather spend my $60 on other video games out there. Yes. Exactly, and play them. I don't know. Anthem, to me, was one of those games where it's like, it actually kind of tilts me a little bit, too, from an extension, because I'm a huge Mass Effect kind of guy. Like, I love Mass Effect. I played 1, 2, and 3.
BioWare has a heavy history in Mass Effect.
BioWare, for me, like, all right. So one of my first BioWare games was Mass Effect, right? That game series was so great up to 2, and 3 was great up until the end, that I went back and played, you know, their older titles like Jade Empire, you know, Star Wars. Great games. Awesome games. Fucking, then, you know, we get the hype of Mass Effect Andromeda, and I'm like, oh man, can't wait to fucking see what the Mass Effect team brings. To realize now that Anthem was the game that pretty much siphoned away resources from Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm not saying that the team working behind it was that great either. They had their own issues. But to know that resources were split to this Anthem project and finally getting to play Anthem and realizing what it is, in my opinion, just pisses me off, because I'm like, dude, one of my favorite game franchises got fucking shafted because of this game, right? This fucking loot and shoot game that's literally on par with The Division and Destiny right now. And why do they do it? I don't even think it's BioWare behind it. And if it is, like, holy fucking shit, did the company like really step down in quality? I think it's really EA is like, man, we need our own Division. We need our own Destiny. Let's get fucking BioWare to do it. And BioWare creates it. And it's like a, I don't know. To me, it just feels like a really, after playing it, I just can't see why. Like, I lost Andromeda. I'll live that one down. Well, then this should have been fucking great. This should have been another BioWare game I'd have expected to ran into. And I expect not every game is a heavy hitter, but man, 6 years for this? Seems a little out there, you know?
I'm looking at this right now. And Anthem and all that stuff, and like, okay, so a good example of like what you were talking about of entitlement is like saying, let's take Fallout 76 for example. The game releases, it's definitely not a complete game. You paid $60 for it. You have every right to complain. However, you take a game like, say, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It released as a full game, but people are bitching because of, you know, the fact that there's going to be DLC for it, episodes, if you will, for post game.
Right.
And they're bitching that should have been included in the main game. I agree that that's entitlement.
I mean, I'm one of those people. Okay, so here's my thing about DLC episodes. We've been having DLC episodes since, like, I would say GTA 4, right? So GTA 4 was a long time. So for me, GTA 4 was a big example of DLC episodes, because when that game was coming out, they said at the time that they were going to have 2 episodes for Xbox 360, right? Exclusive, timed. So from there, you know that they're working on extra content. They probably have it somewhat ready, all right? They got away with it because the actual DLC they provided added onto the base game, and it was really solid DLCs. Like, if you counted the GTA 4 DLCs, they were like fucking games within themselves. It was that well done. Ever since then, game companies have been making expansion packs to video games. Now, with Assassin's Creed Odyssey or games of that nature, they're treating it more kind of like, okay, we're going to give you a $60 game. By the way, let me give an example over here. I have the PS4 version of AC Odyssey on disc. If I don't have a connection, I can put that disc in and play AC Odyssey from start to finish without needing an internet connection and all the side content that was with the game day one, right? There's a lot of side content there. The way that they build this game is an interesting thing. If you have an internet connection, they will put in free episodes month to month to month, just because they realize that they're not making another Assassin's Creed game next year. It's not a yearly franchise anymore. They're going to take time off to update the engine, to update the style, and all that. And a lot of games
is good because they needed that.
Absolutely,
they straight up needed that. Now it's fully fresh.
So exactly, you went from Assassin's Creed Syndicate to Origins, and it felt like a fresh update to the series. Felt great, got great reviews. Now, when they give you free content, it's not as impressive as like a full game. It's to tide you over for the next game release. They have to find that middle ground, right? Like, they got to make their money somehow. It's understandable. I'm one of those people that if you have a full $60 game that's amazing from start to finish, that's a good game, and then they add expansions to it. They announce that they're going to do it. Like, as long as the base game is good and feature filled, I'm fine with adding expansions, because it's like it just adds to the game value for me, right? Metal Gear Solid 5 could have done it, right? They could have launched it the way that they had, and they could have had extra expansions to it. Would it feel like maybe Kojima cut stuff out? But at the same time, like, if the game was as feature filled as it was at launch anyways, like, I don't think we would have minded it too much. That's just how I look at it from my perspective. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand from a business perspective why they do it. When the moment that it starts cutting into a video game's launch, and it starts taking away from, like, for example, Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man for PS4 was a great game, right? Before Spider-Man for PS4 came out, they announced they had 3 expansions, one launching a month after the game came out, right?
Yep. Which,
now,
I don't have an issue with that.
I don't have an issue with that either. It's just when you start to look at the quality of some of them and you realize, okay, there's no reason why this shouldn't have been in the game in the first place, right? You know what I'm trying to say over there? That's when I get the ideas a little iffy, right? But when it's like pure post-game content, it's not like I don't know. It's a fine line. GTA's content, for instance, showed up months after the game came out. Witcher 3, while after the game came out. That I'm okay with, because that, the game's release, they're going to work on post-release content anyways. We've been having post-release content forever. If you wanted to bitch about them cutting stuff out of the game, look back in the days of Morrowind when they released full expansion packs to stuff. Like, it happens with single-player games. I'm sorry.
Well, remember a little game called The Sims back in the day?
The Sims is notorious as fuck. That's a transcendent experience. My God. Yeah, you want to bitch about expansion packs being cut out? Look at The Sims. That's horrible. Like, what is it? Like, fucking hundreds upon hundreds of dollars to have, like, the tiniest of gameplay editions?
Yes.
God, I can't. No, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm one of those people where, like, I'm not negative about video games. Like, if I play a good AAA video game, I'll have a good time. I'm like, if you guys look into my gaming repertoire over here, like, if you guys look into the kind of games I play, like, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm playing Spider-Man PS4, I have .hack goo. How many fucking people watching this video know what the fuck .hack goo is? Yeah, I'm playing that collection on PS. Yeah,
I do.
Okay, it's a little more obscure, but I'm playing that collection on PS.
Oh, that is 100%. That's 100% obscure because that is old stuff. That's like old PS2 RPGs.
Yeah, like I'll play games like Yakuza. I'll play a lot of those games. Like I play games. I play good games. I enjoy a good time with video games. I'm not so overly negative and cynical that I can't enjoy a good game as it comes out. I play AAA. I play indie. I play a lot of stuff. That's where my repertoire goes into. I think when you look at a lot of YouTube right now with a lot of these people calling out these issues, it's almost like they started gaming 5 years ago and they didn't know what gaming was like. Even in the old days, like we used to have expansion packs a lot. We did. I think if any console popularized it, it was the original Xbox. Remember when that came out? We were like, man, it has a hard drive in it. And they touted, we get to expand your games with all the storage space. And it was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Congratulations. One of the earliest console MMOs, EverQuest and Final Fantasy 13? Not 13. Which Final Fantasy? Which one was it? 11, right? That was also an MMO. That was a PS2 MMO. We've been having expansions for a while. We've been having this kind of gaming for a while. I think there's a lot of people who are negative for the right reasons, yes, but they also forget that, gaming is not so terribly negative to this point that you're making it out to be, right?
I mean, it's certainly not a new video game crash.
No, it's not.
By no means is this like a crash of the video game market comparable to like anything that's happened in the past. This is not a crash.
Okay.
Market. If anything, the market is still surging. It's still going up.
Here's the thing with the video game crash that people don't remember too much. When the video game crash happened, right? Video games were a lot more niche. And those video games back in the day, for the prices that they were selling them, were fucking ass.
Yeah.
Like, they were bad. Yep. Like, you're going to tell me, like, okay, back in the day, what was it? Fucking Pong, Tetris, all that shit? Games that, yeah, back in the day, they were impressive, but they still didn't have the depth required to charge up the ass, you know? We had a video game crash because video games by gameplay were still very much in the infancy. When you look at a game like a Battle Royale genre right now, which a lot of people compare to, like, oh, we're going to have a gaming crash because there's so many of these samey games, right? Loot and shooters, Battle Royales. These games, you know, they're still not, like, back in the day, we're talking hundreds of fucking games that were the same thing across multiple platforms. Now we've got maybe 2, 3, but we've got like maybe 10, 15 games you don't notice that are changing up gameplay in the back, right? Nowadays, gaming is more innovative than it ever was. You know, we have shit like No Man's Sky, which couldn't have been fucking perceived back in the day. Bringing a tech showcase nowadays. Yeah, it was a shitty launch, sure, but an interesting, innovative idea. We have tons of games coming out that are bringing upon the formula. We have so much diversity in gameplay that if you don't enjoy something, you'll probably find a new branch somewhere else, right? Like, mainstream gaming, yes, it might seem like we're in a crash with battle royales, but in reality, how many fucking battle royales are there that are worth a mention, right? Let's ignore the 50 billion on Steam anyways that nobody fucking plays. What do you have? Fortnite, Call of Duty, PUBG, Apex Legends now, maybe Battlefield 5. 5 games total, all right? Amongst hundreds of games that are good and are overlooked. There is no crash anytime. The market is healthy, it's alive, and it's functioning. And as many people are buying microtransactions, there's still as many video game companies out there making shit like Cyberpunk 2077 that are not going to be full of microtransactions, that are going to make their money, that are going to innovate gaming to a point that you haven't seen before. Something like Cyberpunk 2077, we didn't even have 1% of that shit. Back in the day, the biggest fucking thing for us was like Shadowrun on the SNES, dude, and we still had our dicks blown away by that. Now we're entering that shit. Now we're having a new age.
Do you remember the time when, like, let's say something like Resident Evil 4 came out, and you saw those graphics back on the PS2 or the GameCube or whatever you played it on first, and you're just like, holy shit, how do graphics get better than this?
Well, but even when you look at the gameplay, right?
They keep getting better and better and better. And it's just like
you look at gameplay, right? It's like, okay, we have shit like Resident Evil 4. You know, we had Resident Evil 7, which was a great fucking game in the franchise. We've had Resident Evil 2 remake, which is an even better, probably the best game in the franchise overall.
The best. I will agree with that.
You know, gameplay gets better over time. You know, we had Metal Gear Solid 3, great game. We also had Metal Gear Solid 5, which most Metal Gear fans probably consider to be weak in story, but I think me and Amari can sit down and say in gameplay, that's probably the best Metal Gear game that has shot out ever.
No, without a doubt.
MGS5 earns the title of it. So, like, games are good. They're getting great. You know, AAA games, yeah, there are some that attract that negative attention, like Fallout 76. But I'm one of those people that for every one bad AAA Fallout 76, there's always 5 good games that we end up missing out on, right? Or
without
sometimes the community gets so negative about a game that you often overlook the good parts about it. Like, one of them was Shadow of War, right? And Kyle was one of those people that liked playing Shadow of War, stepped away because I think it was Jordan that kept telling you about how terrible the microtransactions were.
All I ever heard was, oh, it's a terrible game because the end game is so grindy to beat the game. And I'm just like, no, it isn't.
No, that last chapter was pretty ass before it was unpatched.
He literally says, like, oh, they force microtransactions or just really long time, and I'm just like, hey, are we playing the same? Like, what?
Do you ignore the fact that there was a lot of people that said, wow, the whole game was great up until that last grindy chapter, which I agree was bad.
It's like,
I agree
just because an end section is grindy.
It's almost like the same thing, too, for instance, right? MGS5, I like the game. You know, there's going to be a lot of gamers who beat the last true mission of that game and just completely turn it off. Then you're going to have the gamers that really enjoy the gameplay, playing it to the fucking very end. I would say MGS5 is almost the same fucking grind, except you can't pay to fucking win it. You have to sit there and grind it out. You know, get all your bases up, your characters. And I would say if you're a big fan of fucking Shadow of War, like you really love the gameplay, I'm sure you'd probably do the same thing without thinking twice. I don't agree with it for sure. The microtransactions are kind of ass, but you have those people that oftentimes play the games. They read about the games, they don't fucking play it, and then they just bitch about it for the whole time. Like we can't stop hearing about it. It's like I'm one of those people where it's like I'm gonna play a game, right? And I'm gonna get a solid opinion out of it before I bitch about it, you know? I want to at least know what I'm getting into before I start bitching about something, right? Fallout 76, I gave it a chance. I think that's what gave me the right to bitch about it for a while, but that's how I go about things. Whew.
As far as that goes, like I don't think I've ever like ragged on a game that I haven't played other than like Fallout 76, but that's just because I kind of I've actually seen so many people have bad response to it. I'm like, okay, clearly something is wrong with it. Otherwise, so many people wouldn't be blowing up over it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for now, guys, this episode has gone on for about 45 minutes ish, guys. We've had a fairly long, consistent podcast. We started talking about Resident Evil movies, all up into EA's bullshit and just gaming in general. I think we needed this topic actually because gaming media, at least on YouTube, has gotten pretty negative to an extent. And, you know, we all feed into it, but I think that there's also people that just are negative for the sake of, well, people that never really look into gaming itself. It's a complicated topic. I'm looking at it through some bias myself as well. So I'll fully admit to that. But I think we had a pretty healthy episode, guys, don't you think?
I agree.
Yeah, was good talking.
Yeah. I think for now, though, we're going to not chew on your ears too much and save some topics for the next time and just leave you all to a lovely, lovely. Yeah, savor. Leave you all to a lovely Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. So if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. Please follow Imaru and Kyle. I'll leave social media links in the description below. But for now, we are out.